this is my fifth time working with Visetra on this. I'm on stage with my two besties. I think you've seen them before. You see all those cameras? Those are for Andrew, not for you.
I'm okay with that.
My name is Calvin Bowie. I'm a chef, a restaurateur, and I've been here for 15 years. Vietnam has really made the man you see in front of you. I've known these gentlemen for a long time. Sunny, I've known you for 8 years. A little bit about yourself.
From me or from you?
From you.
Okay.
I know who you are.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming today and sticking around for this because the lunch is almost ready. And you guys are still here, and that means a lot. My name's Sunny. I'm the host and creator of the Best Ever Food Review Show. It's a channel on YouTube that explores unique food from around the world. Our channel has almost 11 million subscribers at this point, and my team is based here in Saigon. So we have about 20 people all together that make this show happen twice a week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, you are the #1 food and travel show in the world. And between all of us, there's almost 11 million.
That's right. That's amazing.
I have 70. I have 70 to throw into the mix.
70 million.
1,000.
Okay.
Andrew, and yourself?
So my name's Andrew. I've been here maybe 10 years, a little bit longer than Sunny, and also doing primarily actually in the tourism industry initially and content marketing, working a lot with Sunny's team early on, and now sort of branching off on my own, starting my own channel. And I've been doing content now for only really on my own for a little bit more than a year and a half. Rounding error here, about 170,000 subscribers, but I do pretty okay on the views. It's doing all right now. Maybe 4.5 million views last month, and a little bit of a different take. Sunny's stuff, I think, is a little bit more on the sort of maybe like pop culture vibes, food tours, mainstream foods, and my content is a little bit more documentary and a deeper look at the cultural context behind the foods.
What do you call it? Slum porn?
Okay. That was a private conversation.
We'll go to some questions, but please sit around. I have a big announcement to make for every one of you. I haven't said anything to anybody yet, so please stick around, and then we'll go have lunch. All right, you ready to do this?
Yeah, you gonna read some questions?
No. All right, question number 1. Given that both Sunny and Andrew have embarked on extraordinary culinary journeys, exploring the depths of Vietnamese cuisine, let's delve into what initially sparked their passion for food exploration.
So for me, I come from Minnesota. When I was 24, I moved to Korea. And before I moved to Korea, I always watched Anthony Bourdain's show, No Reservations, and I watched Bizarre Foods. And I was from this tiny town of about maybe 50,000 people, and I didn't know it until later after moving out, but every restaurant in my town was a franchise. I thought we were like the only one to have an Olive Garden. Incorrect. There's a few more out there. And so this show really inspired me to go out into the world and see what else is out there after watching these TV shows. So I started with Korea, and then I lived there for 8 years. After 8 years, I moved here to Vietnam, and I took on this mission of trying to create this YouTube channel and see if it would actually work and if people would be interested in seeing all these unique foods from around the world. And luckily, it worked out.
That is really hard to follow up. I mean, Andrew, you grew up in Australia. What sparked your passion for food? Because in Australia, pepper is considered spicy. I got jokes today, don't I?
Yeah, look, I mean, maybe for me, even moving to Vietnam was part of food exploration. Like, food was one of the big parts of the reason that I decided to move here. And so, and more than that, using it as a prism to explore Vietnam quite deeply. Like, I think you just get way more of an understanding of people, of culture, when you have a mission to sort of tell the story of a food, to really dig in, to explore an entire supply chain. And I mean, Vietnam, maybe more than anywhere else, once you finally break bread with people, sit down, share a meal, like, it's very much a family dynamic. You get away from that sort of just pure tourism or outsider type vibe. So learning that just bit by bit by bit, and then obviously with the content creation, I mean, that's where the passion is now.
I'm sure everybody here wants to know, what's your favorite Vietnamese food? And we've eaten a lot of food on the show. We've eaten it, just living here for so many years. I'll let Andrew answer first so you can just kind of think about it. Your face looks really...
Yeah, it's tough.
I know.
Andrew?
I know.
My go-to answer here is always bún riêu. I don't know why. I just like that kind of, it's a little bit different. You can't really find it in the West. I think it's a very difficult dish to find outside of Vietnam at all.
But there's two styles. There's northern style and southern style. It's like East Coast, West Coast. Which one is the best one?
I like Saigon style. I mean, I grew up eating that here. I grew up. When I first moved to Vietnam, I guess I was eating it in Saigon. So
I like northern style myself. If there's not an unfilled duck egg in my bún riêu, well, I'm not going to eat it. Sunny, what's your favorite food?
I go through phases, but right now it's probably bánh tráng cuốn. I am always, as much as I traveled around the country, I'm in awe of the creativity and innovation with Vietnamese folks and rice and all the different ways they're able to shape rice into different incredible foods. And bánh tráng cuốn, it's a spot for me right now.
What is bánh tráng cuốn? This is a good question.
Take it away, Calvin.
Great. So bánh tráng cuốn starts with rice paper. And then there's Vietnamese herbs. There's dried beef in there, a little bit of mayo, cut quail eggs, and you roll that all the way up like a little bit of like a little spring roll. You dip it. I would dip it in a tamarind sauce.
Excellent choice.
That's what you would do, the same thing?
Whatever they smother on top of it. Usually it's a load of mayonnaise. Yeah.
All right, next question. I'll ask this to both of you guys again. Based on your travels and experiences, and you guys have been from north to south, east to west, I don't think there's one city that you guys haven't been to besides Cà Mau. Cà Mau?
yeah, I don't think I've been to quite that far south.
How does Vietnamese cuisine compare to other culinary cultures worldwide? And what are some similarities and differences?
Sure, I'll start. I would say, for me, as a testimonial to how much Vietnamese food has to offer, I have this quick story of what happened to me and my team during the pandemic. In 2000, as the pandemic came upon us, Vietnam, I came back from a trip, and a couple weeks after that, Vietnam closed its borders. So I was able to leave the country if I wanted to, but I wouldn't be able to come back in. And so for all intents and purposes, I was stuck in Vietnam with a travel show that for years had been traveling to a different country every month. And from that point over the next year or so, we shot, edited, and posted over 100 videos in a row in Vietnam. And this country has so much range and diversity with food that we're able to shoot everything from food factories to tribes to street food and everything in between. And so, to me, I guess when I think Vietnam, one of the many things I think about the food is just the incredible range that there is here.
Thank you. Andrew, and yourself?
Yeah, I think maybe to build on what Sunny's saying there, it's such a broad cuisine, but it's also maybe relatively unknown internationally still. Like, it's obviously building popularity, but I'd say that most tourists, most travelers coming here, their go-tos are still going to be like banh mi, iced coffee, pho, maybe spring rolls, and that might be the extent of the knowledge. But it's such a good cuisine that you've got those familiar flavors, those known dishes that they can dig into, and then you have this just wild long tail of foods, of cuisines, of like subcultures here that the more adventurous people can sort of dig into. So yeah, Vietnam's it's got kind of everything. It's got the familiarity, and then it's got just the wild side.
I would say that in Saigon, it's truly a hodgepodge. It has cuisines from everywhere, including the north, the middle, the south. But when you start traveling into the regions, you start seeing things and you start seeing flavors, ingredients, styles of cooking. The north is very French influenced, whereas the central area, I find that the soups, the snacks, just the flavor in general, it's more on the herbaceous, which is my favorite word, and porky side. And in Saigon, it's more the sweet style. But I would say that the regions of Vietnam in the West, they're starting to focus more on northern style food, central style food, southern style food. and you're starting to really understand the history behind the why the food is what it is. You want anything? Okay. Last questions, and I'm gonna do my big announcement. This is not real hair. This is hair plugs.
Nice. Mine's fake.
I used your hair.
Really?
This is how we talk to each other all day long. It's just seriously jokes upon jokes. This is a true friendship that we have. All right, the last question, Sunny, you first. How has online content on OnlyFans, just kidding, contribute to the global popularity of Vietnamese cuisine? Two-parter. What are some specific examples of impactful content that have showcased the diversity and richness of Vietnamese food?
Did ChatGPT write that second one?
Okay. Yes. I got the prompts right.
I can remember the first one. Let me answer that first. When it comes to the influence of platforms like YouTube on Vietnamese cuisine, so I started posting about Vietnamese food roughly 8 years ago. And I would say at that time, so as a YouTuber, when you go to different countries, there are certain countries and words that are keywords that people are going to gravitate towards. And big ones might be like Japan. People want to know about Japan. They want to know about food there. But if you're talking about South Sudan, maybe not as many people will click on that. In the beginning, when I was documenting Vietnamese food, it wasn't really that much of a keyword that it seemed like people were searching for. It seemed like there wasn't that many videos about the topic of Vietnamese food. But over time, it's completely inverted. It's completely changed, where I think more and more people are traveling here. They're seeing more documentation or documentaries or YouTube videos, Instagram posts and so on, of all that there is to see here and of all the food. And so I think international awareness of food in Vietnam has grown immensely from the time I started until now.
How does your approach to food content creation, focusing on rare and lesser known foods, contribute to a more comprehensive understanding and fresh perspective of the Vietnamese food industry? Okay, that was ChatGPT. I'm not gonna lie, that last question was ChatGPT.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think more comprehensive understanding. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that I've focused on is maybe so remote or so unknown that there's really not that much that's out there at all in terms of an understanding about it. So, you know, I mean, I've done a lot of stuff maybe with like the remote tribes, for example, in the north, harvesting Asian giant hornets, where they capture, then farm, and then finally harvest just huge balls of them, or some of the stuff with weaver ants in the south and central Vietnam. I've shot that with Sunny. So these sort of more obscure foods, I think that they, to the extent that there's much knowledge about them at all, that probably helps contribute. And I also think that a lot of these dishes, they're probably not long for this world. Like, these kinds of food cultures are the side of Vietnamese food cuisine that is kind of dying. So I kind of hope that I can document a little bit of the current state that it's in, those cuisines, that is. And then, in terms of understanding from the outside, I think that a lot of people typically think that these more obscure foods are purely about survival sometimes. Then the instant or the usual reaction is that, you know, if a lot of these communities weren't poor, they'd just be eating chicken and pork like the rest of us. And that's almost never the case. So I like to share that kind of side of things as well. The weaver ants in central Vietnam have this, like, an incredible sour apple, almost tamarind-esque like explosion. And it's just not a flavor profile that you're going to be able to find, especially out of a protein, outside of that maybe. So there's a real reason that these delicacies have stuck around in these communities, and it's very rarely just a purely survival food. So it's cool to share that kind of thing. I don't know if the audience really picks up on it, but yeah, maybe that's the awareness side of things.
People always ask me, they always go, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? Before we answer that question, I have my own for the show. Best Ever Food Review Show is not about saying or telling people what we think about the food. It's about rating the food. It's about telling the story, the origins, and the why. Why do people eat the food the way they do? I think that's something you've been really great at doing through the show and through voiceover and just the general appeal of the show. But everybody wants to know, what is the most weirdest thing we've ever eaten on the show? You want to start first, or you want to go last?
Oh God, I have such a list. I will go with. Can I say a couple? I'll say a couple.
Yes, you can.
There
Yes,
is
you
no
can.
one weirdest. I mean, there's so many different unusual contexts. I mean, when I was in Tanzania not so long ago, I was with one of Africa's last remaining hunter-gatherer tribes, the Hadzabe, and they had just killed a vervet monkey, a white fluffy monkey, before I got there, and then they cooked it essentially by just tossing it in a campfire, poking it around, and then eating its flesh. I ate a bit of that. I mean, but that's not the worst tasting thing I've ever had. But that's up there. That's unusual. Probably the most heart-wrenching thing I ever ate was I was with some Aboriginal folks in Australia. You were here for that.
I was.
You were there for that, rather. And we got to see their traditional way of hunting sea turtles, which, you know, everyone loves sea turtles. And then suddenly there's a guy with a speedboat approaching one with a spear. It turned out when you crack open the sea turtle, this is not a good... I should have.
Right before lunch.
I should have picked something else. When you crack open a sea turtle and cook the meat that's stuck to its shell, it's green. The fat is green, and it cooks up. It gets crispy, and it tastes like a combination of nori and fried pig fat. And I hated how delicious it was.
I specifically actually remember the liver of that turtle, which these Aboriginal guys were sort of very insistent that we ate. And yeah, very much that sort of seaweedy flavor. You can't shake, no matter how good it is, you can't shake the fact that it's a turtle. You know what I mean? So it tastes great, and you just can't enjoy it. That's a wacky one.
I will tell everybody my weirdest thing I've eaten outside of this panel, so you can all find me and talk to me. I do want to do a quick launch, or just a quick insight. I've never told anybody this yet. Ready to do this? You ready to do this? All right. I am going back into the kitchen as a chef, and I'm going to be creating a new restaurant called Mum Mum. Now, Mum Mum is going to be my way of reimagining and defining what Nho cuisine is to the Vietnamese and to the world. Right? And take out all the accents of Nho. It's Nho together. So, our new restaurant will be located at the Nexus Tower, right in District 1. Click. This is the outside of the restaurant. It is designed by The Lab, which also designed bakes, mommy cocktails, amongst us, a bevy of other amazing interiors and exteriors. Push. This is the interior. We are doing an all-day, all-night dining restaurant. We're focusing on Vietnamese food, but just in a way to tell a story of regions, of community, and really having fun in there. Next slide. It looks amazing, yes, but I'm going to do it so value-driven. A person will be spending, on average, at night, $400,000 to $600,000. Not saying that's cheap. I'm thinking that's really value-driven, and you're going to start to see really a lot of storytelling. Last one. We will be the first restaurant group to create legalized food trucks here in Vietnam, and we'll have 3 food trucks in the plaza. You see MasterCard on the outside because they work closely with Visetra and us also. So we're looking forward to driving these cars around town, driving them from the north to the south, east to the west. And I'm really looking forward to feeding everybody and just showing you guys how I see Vietnam. And that is it. Thank you so much to my panel.
Congratulations, Calvin.
Thank you very much.
That's amazing.
Thank you. I'll see you there.
I'll see you at lunch.
Ready?
And also there.
Okay. Thank you, Sunny. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, everybody, for sitting through what seems to be 25 minutes of pure nothingness. Let Nisha take it over, and then we'll see you at lunch. Come by. It is pure nothingness. Come by, say hi to us. We'd love to meet you guys.